Welcome back. Today I have for you a new creation of mine. This was made with Brajef and RedsXD. It is this 2x1 seamless glass hipster door. As you probably noticed from the little presentation I had there, this thing is only 1 block wide. The dimensions are only 11 by 6, which makes this whole thing here 66 blocks. And let's just take a look at it. So here's the opening. So you can see it's fairly standard for this layout. The only thing is that at the end, there's a bit of a block getting pushed back and forth there before this last block is pushed up into the floor. And then for opening here, for closing, it closes like that. And then we have a fairly long cooldown because it runs through the same sequence for the closing and opening on this side here. And that's just needed to be done just to make it so compact. So this door is also the smallest expandable 2-high seamless glass hipster, and you can expand it up to 8 blocks long. However, I wouldn't recommend using it for anything larger than a 1 wide one, just because it gets extremely large once you expand it beyond that. So if you only want a 1 wide version of this door and you don't want to watch the tutorial, you can pause the video right here. However, after this I'll have a block by block tutorial of it. So to build this, you're going to need a 1 wide, 11 long, and 6 high area, and your floor block will be the 7th block up. So first we'll start off with our layout. You're going to want to go to the center block in our space here, so there's going to have 5 blocks on both sides. And here this will be our bottom layer of the door. And you have 2 blocks from there, and that'll be the bottom of our triple. So you can place 2 more pistons here to make it a triple extender. Then we're going to place 2 pistons right there, and the observer facing up. And then we're going to come out all the way to the end of our area here. And above the triple extender, place 1 normal piston facing towards it, an observer, and another normal piston. And this will be where our glass is. Let's just place a quartz block here for our floor block. So we'll start off by putting in our input block, which is going to be right under this piston here. This can be either a note block or a dropper. However, if you use a note block, since we have a torch on it, it won't make a sound. So we're going to have our lever right here, as well as our torch on top. From this note block, we're going to have an observer, which goes into a 4-tick repeater here, and also another observer facing up into an immovable block, just like that. Then we're also going to have a hopper on top of this torch here, which also has an observer facing into this block here. This will provide the pulses for closing, so it'll pull this block down here, and then push these 2 glass blocks up. Now to power our extender here for closing, we're going to have a observer coming from this torch here. Then we're going to use some of our new 1.16 features, and we're going to place a repeater on top of a piston. And that's also going to have a observer facing up into this piston here, and an observer facing sideways into this hopper here. So this actually is our entire closing circuit, but it won't work fully because we still need to finish the rest of the door to test it. So now to finish up, we're going to do our minecart down here, and this provides a fairly long delay for our hopper timer on the bottom, which is used as a ROM to make the rest of the door work. So it's going to place a lamp here, which is where our minecart will be. And since we already placed this piston here and I don't want to remove it because I'll power all these observers here, what I'm going to do is set up our minecart right next to it, then push it in with a piston. So just set up some rails here and push our minecart into a fence here, destroy the rails, and then just push it onto this lamp here with the piston. Just power the back of the piston to make sure it doesn't zero tick. And now our minecart's in the right place. You also want to place a cobweb up here, which will catch the minecart and provide that long delay that we need. Then we just need a pressure plate here, which will power this lamp. So I can just test this real quick. So this piston here is powered by this observer, which also powers this 4 tick. And when it retracts, it'll pull our minecart up off this pressure plate for quite a long time before it finally falls down and powers the lamp again. And this will power this observer here, which will power this block, which will power this piston here, and this redstone block here, which will be to control our hopper timer here. Inside this we're going to put 6 blocks, and we're going to take a comparator output from both sides, but on this side we're going to have it go through this block here, so our comparator here, and this will power our note block here. So I'm just going to remove this observer here so it doesn't power everything. And I'm going to place that block there, then I'll put this observer back. So this entire side of the door done. So now for the rest of the door, we're first going to have an observer that detects this bottom piston here, and will power this 4 tick repeater here, which acts as a double extender for these top 2 pistons. So just like that. Then we're also going to take, first we're going to have a lamp here, which is powered by this redstone block. We're also going to place a comparator on top of it, which will power a block which will power a 3 tick repeater here, which powers these 2 observers which face into this block here. Taking an output from this lamp, we're also going to have a observer that powers this hopper here, powering this observer, which will power this dropper here. And this dropper will also be bud powered by these 2 4 tick repeaters here. So these 2 bud power it. Then we take an output from that, which will go into our 2 pistons here. So we're just going to have a 2 tick repeater here, and then an observer here, which will power them. This should be our entire door done. So just make sure you have 6 items here, and everything else looks good, so we can test it. So there's our closing. Now we just have to wait for this minecart timer and then our hoppers here. It seems to work properly. Now we can open it. And it seems like it all works. So now for expanding it, this is a quite complex process, as the second layer and the layers after that vary quite a bit from our first. We can't just extend the outputs, as we have to add some additional logic to the door. So to do this, first we're going to start by adjusting our minecart. And the easiest way to do this is just to place a fence right here and take a piston and just on the back, place the button on the back so it doesn't zero tick, and just push it over like that. Then we can have our we'll have another pressure plate here with another lamp, which will power this observer, which will power a second piston and redstone block here, which will power a second hopper timer. Put 6 items in that, just like the other one. Have a comparator taking an output, and this time it will go into a rail. We'll have our rail here, which will which will send a signal to this observer. We'll have our 4 tick, and we'll have our observer and immovable block up here. And then to power a second set of these pistons up here, we're just going to take an observer from the side of this repeater. There's an observer facing up, which will power our extender up here. Then we'll have another observer taking an output from that hopper going into this immovable block. Then for this side, it's quite a bit easier. all we have to do is extend this output here, put another 4-tick repeater there, and extend this output up here, and add another 2-tick repeater. We'll have another observer, 2 pistons, and the observer facing up. Get another block there, and that is how you expand it to 2 blocks wide. You can just take another look. The closing isn't synced. That's just because we have some extra delay from these 2 observers here. But our opening should be perfectly synced. So there's our first block. And there's our second block retraction.